Hey, welcome. On today's show, ChatGPT can now schedule your life. Biden's pushing for faster AI expansion, and OpenAI just launched a robotics division. So, what does this all mean for you? Are we witnessing the start of autonomous AI agents, or is it just a lot of headlines? Well, that's what we're going to get in today with all the biggest news. We always go back on Wednesdays and look back at our favorite news from the last 7 days, including Adobe's tool that can edit 10,000 images. We're going to talk about all of this today. Welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today is January 15, 2025. Currently, I have Beth, I'm Brian, but we did have Andy. We just lost him. So hopefully Andy will be back on here in just a second. Don't forget, by the way, you can go over to the dailyaishow.com. Check out all our previous episodes. If you want to join us live, we're always live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can do that over on YouTube. That's the best place to do it. You can join all our wonderful people who show up every day in the chat. So with that, let's dig into the top news stories. Now, I mentioned a couple at the top, Beth, but what do you think? Do you want to start with tasks? Because I've actually played with that and gotten it to work already.
Oh, wow. I have not played with it, but I did confirm that I have it. So I'm curious, like, did they just have they learned? Right? They rolled it out in beta, but they actually rolled it out this time as opposed to like a week and a half of us saying, "Do you have it? Do you have it?" So in our chat, we'd love to know if you got access to tasks as well. And Brian, tell me what you've set it up for.
So I wasn't sure, right? I was like, yeah, immediately you start thinking to yourself, like, okay, what can a task do? Like you start thinking like, what I want a reoccurring task in OpenAI to do. Okay, well, I might want to know something about our YouTube channel, right? I might want to know updates on maybe viewership or something like that. And so it became it became a test of where can it go and what can it scrape, right? That was number one. And then number two, like, could it actually function as like almost like an RSS feeder for shows like today? So I had some trouble, but I did ultimately get both of them to run. And so what I found was when you put in the task and you just speak naturally about what you want the setup to task to. And honestly, I think it's just gonna be easier if I just share my screen here. So I'll do that in just a second. Let me see if this is correct, if this actually has a task on it.
Because we should also say that if you haven't looked or tried to figure it out, you go to the circle that has your profile, like your little
Mhm.
avatar thing. It's not under tools, it's under that. And then you'll be able to set up tasks.
Yeah, you're right. It's up under the upper right. If you want to share the screen, I'll just pin.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'm picking on the wrong screen. Right up here in tasks. But actually, where I found it was, I know it's always funny. You look at it on the screen and you start moving your mouse towards it. Where I actually found it was here. That's where I noticed I had it first. Was that is actually a drop down
Nice.
under GPT-4o with scheduled tasks. So I collect.
Yeah, it's a separate model. You have to use a separate model with tasks in order to access tasks.
It wasn't in my drop down when I saw it. But
is it there now?
Yeah. So
I don't know if I click on this. I think I can ask a new task, but I'm pretty sure that would just open up the model on a new thread. But regardless, you can see them organized here. So this was just a simple one. Like, could I get a set of news stories for a show like today? Could I every Wednesday at 7 a.m. get a rundown of the latest stories? So I went back and forth. It didn't run at first. You can see I kind of bumped the times here a couple of times. I probably started around 7:15 this morning. It took me till about 8:30. And what I noticed is when I clicked on here, see right down in here where it's pulling in from like future tools, which is one of the locations that I would do. When I was initially asking for it, you can see where your schedule, your weekly, you can rename it up here. It wouldn't pull in both cases. It did not pull in the URL that I mentioned. So it would go out and do research, but it wasn't focusing. Same thing with the YouTube channel one. I was like, tell me how many. I was just trying stuff, guys. I don't need to know. I'm not that vain. I don't need to know what our subscribers are every day on YouTube. But I was like, what's the latest show that we did? Tell me the latest video to be uploaded to our channel. And also, what's our current subscriber count? Well, when I first did it, it was like, you have 1,500 subscribers. I was like, yeah, no, we don't. We have over 2,500. So I knew that was wrong. And it's like, also the last thing you did was some new show months ago. I'm like, well, what the heck? How did it get to the wrong spot? And so what I ultimately found out here, because you can see it here, check subscriber count. And you can see me going back and forth like, wow, this isn't right at all. Did you go directly to the link I provided and look for the information at the moment you search? Because it's like, how did it, like, when you look at this is what it gave me, like from who knows what, episode 315, which is like 60 episodes ago or something like that. And all this random stuff. And I was like, okay, no. Well, what I ultimately found out was that for whatever reason, when I was creating the task through just the natural language, it wasn't pulling in the URL. It just didn't, it just put it in the task. But when I went in and edited the task, which is right here or here, you know, wherever you see these little bubbles, okay, and I added it that time, it actually stuck. I reset my time. I did on both attempts get delays. That just could be because it's new and it doesn't run immediately. So this is not something where, you know, if you need it down to the second or the minute, I wouldn't say a task is necessarily the right move at the moment, but it did run it. Yeah, no, actually, I don't know if it actually did run it because that's still incorrect on there. It's still incorrect on there. So I'm not sure if it ran again or that's wrong, but the other one is correct. So, you know, it's one of these things we'll have to keep playing with and trying to figure out, because it did in fact pull in all sorts of legit information about what's going on. So that's my very, very brief, just touched it this morning, less than probably an hour total working with tasks. But I do like, let's just talk about the story of it. I do like it as a feature function. I think it is a natural next step towards, you know, any sort of workflows or agentic workflows. Because you could imagine, schedule a task. Oh, I can only go out and retrieve stuff back from the internet, but now go out, retrieve this from the internet, make me a summary of the news stories, and then go put it in Google Drive, or go put it in Notion, or go put it somewhere else, or send it to me in a Slack. See, these things get connected really, really quickly. And if you're automating it and it's doing it repetitively and it's talking to 3 or 4 different apps at a time, that is an agentic workflow, is it not?
Yeah. I think the import of tasks is that your personal assistant with agentic capabilities needs a calendar. And so what, you know, underneath this, really what the OpenAI model is expanding to include in its platform is it's got a calendar for each individual, probably paid only users that can then use that calendar, and the assistant can use that calendar in ways that will support your daily efforts and even go beyond that to weekly and monthly cadences that you want to put in there. I can imagine in the enterprise context, the same kind of functionality being useful for, you know, the quarterly progress of all the different things that a company and its management team have to do. You would use OpenAI tasks in the enterprise version, I think, that way. And it's basically a calendar with tasks built into it.
Right. And
tasks are more sophisticated, as you suggested with your example. When the task run is done, there could be a set of instructions there that include multiple you know, gathers and collections and summarizations that, you know, result in the output that's required.
And just to be clear, because I haven't done it, can we do? Are we referencing the future that it's going to, or can I right now say run the task, make a document, put it in my Google Drive?
Cannot.
Okay.
No. Nothing's connected at the moment that I'm aware of. Of course.
So no actions. The action of, like, you can schedule the action of a chat or what it would do.
Yep.
That's
basically.
awesome.
Yeah. And I should mention this. I also tried, because I thought this would be cool. I said, when you run this action, always add it to this project folder. It said yes, but it didn't do it.
Sure, boss. I'll get right on that. Thanks so much.
I got a no problem. Where do you want this sent? And I was like, I don't think you're. So then I obviously checked because I was like, it seemed logical. We weren't leaving ChatGPT. So like, could you just take this chat thread, because it wasn't a custom GPT, and just put it in the project folder? That would have been super cool, because I could think of about a dozen different things for this show that I would put on a schedule. In fact, I will do tasks anyway, and I'll move them in there myself.
Right.
Oh, I wonder if I move it in myself manually, if it'll stay in there.
Don't know.
Ooh. Because here's the thing. Is a task just one continuous chat window, if I run that task for the next 4 days in a row, does it just keep adding it to the same chat memory and it just
Ooh.
runs it and runs it? Because then I should just be able to move that chat into a project folder and it would just run in there. It would just stay in there. Or
Right.
does it start a brand new chat every time? So far, it's in the same chat thread for me. That's interesting.
Yeah. Which leads to another point, which is now that you're moving towards agentic operations, now we've got a calendar. You need a lot more memory for that individual user.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're going to run into context limitations. And there's some news actually that I want to share in a moment about a new huge context model. And there's this idea that models will eventually become infinite in their context window. That is, they have infinite permanent memory somehow. The technology is chasing that. But you can see how in agent, if you were to have it in the same chat and the chat got long, and like a year later, you've been running that task that many times, when that task tries to run again, it's going to run into context window limits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
And my next question, because when I got into ChatGPT this morning, it said your memory is full. And I was like, ooh, what have you remembered about me? Let's go there. But that then gets a question for me too. Is memory being updated each time the task is run? Like what's that relationship back and forth? Or is the task instruction the thing that gets updated into memory? So Brian wants news stories are important to Brian once a week, right? Brian wants to know AI news stories, or Brian wants to know these news stories. Brian wants to know the next week's news stories. Like that's filling stuff up really quickly.
And I think what I'm going to try to do just for, we're going to move on here. But in the background real quick, I'll just go on mute. I'm going to set up a task to run like every 3 minutes to pull in information. I'm just going to let it run for the show. Let's just see if it works. And we'll come back at the end of the show and I'll report back on if it just keeps updating that same thread. I'll also double check and see if we can throw it into a project folder or not, just so we have something to share with you guys as we're playing with it too. But so we don't get stuck just on tasks, let me toss it back over to you guys. Lots of other news stories to talk about. So Andy, you were just talking about one you wanted to share.
Yeah. So this is the release from a Chinese AI lab of a new open source model that has a 4 million token context window. 4 million. Now, most open source models don't exceed 256,000 tokens, although we know that the Gemini platform, with the power of Google behind it, has a much larger context window. And those context windows, they just require more space, if you will, in like current sort of volatile memory, or somehow, as in the case of tasks, we're actually offloading some of the information that's in a chat thread into a more permanent storage file system, in effect, for each user. But now let's just think about what's happening with this model. It's called, let me see, it's a 456 billion parameter model called Minimax Text 01. And they also offer a multimodal model, Minimax VL-01. Okay, both models process up to 4 million tokens, and they perform comparably to the top models on the academic benchmarks. And they outperform all open source models out there on long context tasks, obviously, because they have this huge window. So this is part of the whole progression that's happening on various fronts in AI that's moving toward this agentic capability. And one of the things that an agent needs to be able to do is it needs to be able to collect a host of information for you for a complex task, and it needs to process that in a large context, or have a RAG system in order to collect all that and retain it. And this is a model that could handle 4 million tokens collected in a single run. So eventually OpenAI will provide that level of context windows for their agents, I believe, as well.
Nice. I think that that's really exciting. And what I think that I am looking for is something like modern libraries have, right? I want to be able to ask in natural language to search against a system. I actually don't want you to use AI to search the system. I want you to use the AI to understand what I asked for and write the search, and then like just do the search, right? Like bring it back, get that information, and then you can use natural language to like converse with me about it, show me that. I'm curious what this model is doing, because part of the does better on longer context tends to be like, right, we give it the little thing like, what is the part of this that didn't exist in 1950 when the book was written, right? And you're asking it to search to find like, he looked at his digital watch, right, or whatever it was.
Well, the description you made of hey, I want to pose an objective, and I want you to design the search to collect all the relevant information, is pretty much Perplexity or Google Deep Research or Sanford Storm. That's what they do, and you can watch them, but they have to be very selective about which ones they select. Storm is much. It'll provide many more reference searches in the process of collecting the information to respond to your request for a sort of a Wikipedia type page. But now we have to worry about, okay, context window, how much can I collect? And that's the inner workings of these models. But I love that Perplexity's already on that trajectory. It knows how to, and it knows how to break down different facets of your question into separate searches, and you see it happen in front of you as it does that. And I'm always pleased with the way it interpreted whatever it was that I asked, which in my natural language composition wasn't very clear.
Right. Nice. Yeah, I love that. Should we, I'm gonna say quickly, or are you ready, Brian? Do you want to show us something?
So I missed what you guys are talking about, so I'm sorry I missed that, but I'll catch up on that. Hopefully I won't repeat the same story. But what I was trying to do, but I ran into some issues, so I'll just say those really quickly and then we'll move on. You can only run 4 tasks an hour. It was having issues of running, even when I said every in 15-minute intervals, it was having trouble. And also I did finally set it up. I had a really novel idea for this one. So my task was start building a space fantasy short story, start with the outline, and on every concurrent task, build off of what you learned from the previous task results. So could it every 15 minutes keep adding to the full story of from starting from scratch with no other thing? The thing that I noticed, so really quick, I know that's cool, right? That's a cool idea. I know I just came up with that. Million ideas here, $1 million ideas. But what I noticed though was, again, same thing. What you say, and after it says it creates the task, the instructions in the task are so limited compared to what you told it to do. So once again, I had to go back into the task instructions and be really, really specific and expand on them quite a bit in order to try to make it run. The first time it's going to run is in about 10 minutes. So we will see what we get out of that. I have literally no idea. Unfortunately, I can't run it faster. So it'll be one of those things we'll just update on the next couple shows if it in fact works.
Let me just make a point about the strategy for releasing tasks at this moment. Even though they may not be as competent in terms of task execution or following instructions as they eventually will be. And that is, we're pushing I think you, Brian, are pushing the limits of what the task thing was designed to do in its initial release. Yeah. But imagine that people just want to have a voice assistant that can give them personal reminders based on a calendar, right? And engage with them verbally around that. And then you can vocally present a set of instructions for that moment. But the calendar aspect is about engagement. So now you're going to have users of OpenAI adding simple reminders. Using the task system.
Words of affirmation.
That's going to increase the frequency of engagement of ChatGPT users. I think that's brilliant.
And this is what we have been asking for from our wiretap ladies the whole time, right? Like, miss the boat. Fine. I am totally willing to jump onto ChatGPT's, I don't know if it's going to be a wiretap or whatever, but wiretap meaning that it listens to us all the time
Right. Yeah.
while we're talking in our houses. But yes, Andy, like that is seems like such low hanging fruit. And they had huge opportunities. Google, Apple, Amazon, huge opportunities to meet this need for us.
Yeah, if you just combine simple memory, like the stuff that you wanted to know about you, like I like short, succinct answers, whatever the case is, and then you combine that with a calendar, a scheduler, and you combine that with something that you know at 2 p.m. you get the after lunch drowsiness, and you just need something to help, get you motivated to get you back going again. You could literally set yourself something that pops up. And by the way, it asked me if I wanted desktop notifications turned on. So it's going to show up even if I'm not in ChatGPT. I'm going to get that notification in the window in Windows. And you could have that reminder come in, or you could have it go to the internet and search for more updated information if you want to use it more like a news feed type thing. But you don't have to. You can just lean on the full power of an LLM to help you work towards that, especially if you have like Andy, I could see you having like an overarching goal and just be like, hey, once a day, help me build on this idea. I don't want it more than once a day because I want to sit and sort of mull about it and think about this, like the conundrums we do inside the newsletter. And then I want to come back and add more to this. But once a day, give me something else to think about on this journey that I'm on over the next 90 days, let's say, or something like that. All sorts of really fun ways you could use it. And yes, I am trying to push it with creating a story, because what I'm curious about, the reason I want to do that is, will it bring in memory from the chat thread? Or are tasks, even if I'm looking at them concurrently in a chat thread, are they independent of each other? Does the ChatGPT window know what came out of the last one? So if I had the news story one and I said, hey, on the top of the hour, bring me the news stories. 15 minutes past the hour, I want you to take those news stories and then drill it down to just the top 5 that might be interesting to my audience. And at the 45-minute past the hour, I want you to give me the why it matters for that.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me because that's actually really helpful.
So the idea of a repetitive, scheduled journaling process, in effect, from your mind into a memory, suggests that you really want to have a recording system for whatever it was that you responded that gets saved, not in context, but rather in some outboard memory. And eventually, I think paid platforms will provide that. So you'll have, I can actually say, okay, I want every morning at 9 a.m. I want you to, ping me and ask me about, what I want to write about today, for example. And so that I'm fumbling on the example because I was trying to think about doing a journal of what I did yesterday, but that's I'll probably have forgotten by 9 a.m. on this day.
Right.
So anyway, bad example, but you can see how I want to have that outboard memory that's a part of my account there. And it's going to be in text. They don't need to preserve it as audio. And then we're talking kilobytes.
Yeah.
So it's not that memory intensive.
No, and I can see, I think it's interesting that this hasn't already been part of the service, but I can see a service for like the Teams level or the enterprise level where it understands that you have multiple clients or multiple projects, and that you can then it understands we're recording memory to this, because that's why my memory was full, right? Like you're someone who cares deeply about musical improv, animation, AI, right? I was like, wow, okay, yes, but let's just narrow that a little bit. Cool.
Do you guys want to move on to another topic I want to bring up because I thought it was interesting? I don't think it's what you said, Andy, but I should have listened in a little harder. Joe Biden, President Biden signs executive order to speed AI data center construction. And I think this is a really interesting story. Number one, President Biden has 5 days left in office as we speak today. So these are things that obviously his administration feels are pertinent to push right away, like faster in the last few days in a lame duck session. Like, that's important. What is concerning, and certainly lots of other people brought it up too, is he is giving an executive order to speed up the development of AI data centers. Yes, we need those. That's great. He doesn't want to fall behind. He wants to continue America to be the leader. But also, other than just calling it clean energy, which I then didn't see any other qualifiers to, it sounds to me like we're going to just speed up data centers and just put it on the same stressed energy grid we have today. And that's a problem for me.
Yeah, that's concerning. I'll share another concern, but first, the idea that there are going to be these data centers that are working based on new energy sources, that's not an immediate thing, right? So for some period of time, there's going to be additional demand. So they threw into that announcement from the White House that they also want to be attentive to energy prices for consumers.
Right.
Because what could happen with this rush to build more and more electricity hogging data centers out there is our electric rates will go up. It's inflationary.
Right.
But if we can find better sources of energy to support those data centers, it's of strategic importance for national security reasons and so on. And that leads to my other concern, which is there's a lot of hubbub right at the moment about maintaining supremacy. And what do we not know about what the AIs are being designed to do in international conflict? So, this is a national security initiative, not just an initiative that's on the back burner. This is a front and center effort. And what is prompting all of this? What fears do they have about what's going to happen in the global sort of geopolitical context that's making them insist on moving forward very aggressively? And I think that what they've just announced is not likely to be overturned by the Trump administration.
I don't think so.
No, so I think there's some alignment there about, hey, the U.S. needs to do this enormous investment, even though it may have negative implications for the consumer population.
Yeah, if anything, when you look at it, the main people who are pushing back against it were all Democrats, which is interesting when you really think about it. That was who were voicing the biggest concerns, at least in this article from The Verge. And just to real quick on what you said, Andy, because you're right, it is in there. Developers building new AI data centers on federal land will be required to, quote, pay all costs of building and operating AI infrastructure so that this development does not raise electricity prices for consumers. So just since I happen to see that. Sorry, Beth, go ahead.
I'm just thinking both of you are underestimating the desire of a new administration that's coming in, opposing the previous administration to just
to do it.
Just to do it.
That could be. But I do think this is in line with actually what President Trump would actually want. I actually think he would, I may be wrong, but I get the impression that he is for speeding up and advancing AI. And so I hope that's not the case, Beth, because I actually think this is a good move, but you're right. Also, sometimes they just want to undo it.
And it could, my thought in this is that it would not surprise me if this got rescinded immediately and then very soon a brand new idea for Trump branded, right?
Yeah,
because he loves to have his name on things. So so these would then have a big Trump on them, but be the data centers in the exact same thing. Because I think you're right.
Maybe it's a bit of a Biden administration stealing some thunder. Yeah, well, we know how that probably will go. More to see in the next probably 2 weeks on that.
Right.
While we're all waiting to see if TikTok actually gets banned or doesn't get banned, and obviously change of the guard here in the States and how that affects the world political climate. That's in the next week. So we will all report back on the AI side of those things.
All indications are that it's going to shut down, and people are scrambling now to find TikTok, a way to preserve the content that they've collected in those accounts.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And you know, this, I guess it's news. I guess it's AI news because we're sort of talking about algorithms and AI is baked into it. Basically, the way I understood it, because they've said this this is the way it happened in other countries that did it. It's not that TikTok disappears. It doesn't go blank or black, because it's actually not going to be against the law for users to use TikTok. The way I understood it was it will just depreciate over time, because ByteDance will no longer be able to make updates or push updates to the app. So the app itself could become unstable, but it will not disappear. And there's actually precedents for this around the world where this is the same thing happened, where it got blocked. It didn't go to a black page that says, sorry, you're banned now, right? It could, I guess, but anything I saw from lawyers, and even the lawyers at ByteDance, said, we don't believe that's the case. So I don't know.
So the latest information is that ByteDance is shutting down the US servers.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
our
right.
data, our videos, our likes, our accounts sit on the US servers.
Yeah.
So whether that had to happen or not, that's the plan that they've announced.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is Nate Jones did a video about how, in a very complicated and troublesome process, you can actually transport using VPNs and other apps. You can transport your TikTok account to be as if it's over in the UK.
Yep.
Okay.
And
then your account will continue to operate, but you have to do it always through the VPN, so that you're coming from the UK. You can't then, there's no servers in the US. You've got to get on you got to have your account moved by TikTok over to the UK servers. And it's not easy. I gave up. I said, okay, what I'm going to lose in TikTok is my collection of things that I never have time to go back and look at again. But more importantly, the articulated, curated feed that I have of important voices that are actually informative to me. I lose all that. But the solution to that, I think, is they're all going to have also an Instagram account. They're going to have a Blue Sky account or whatever, and you can go find them over there. But make a list now this week of the people you really want to continue to hear from, and find them on the other platforms, because I think TikTok's going away.
The most shocking thing to me was that people were bouncing over to another Chinese version, also called Red. What is it called?
Dragon or something like that.
It's called Red Note.
Red Note. And I was like, wow, what a backfire that is. Like, we're trying to protect Americans. Americans like, you know what? Let me just take my data and give it directly.
Yes.
So it's like, all right. I mean, that's not going to be my move, but I will be just fine without TikTok in my life. It's not, it's fine if it's there. If it's not, frankly, in the last week, I have watched entirely too many videos about the wildfires. I'm sort of obsessed with the firefighting techniques and stuff. And now it's the only thing on my feed. So it's probably a good time for a good, wash, and we'll all be okay if we do it. But I do worry about the creators and stuff who obviously, just like on Facebook in the years past and stuff, who are having panic attacks because they've built up, quite a following and quite a revenue stream for themselves directly off that site. And that goes back to the whole thing we said yesterday, which is like, you don't own the land, you're renting, you're just a visitor. And at any time, this is a big one, but at any time, they can decide that you no longer deserve to be a visitor, and they can kick you off their property. And it's a good reason to remember to diversify your efforts.
So once again, geopolitical gyrations are what are creating this turmoil. And let me add another one. But before I do, the other one is that Chinese company that's done the 456 billion parameter model of that. Okay, so China is going to be moving forward, and we had a show where we commented on how innovative and sort of MacGyver-ish the Chinese have become, and they're building around all of the restrictions that are being imposed on them by the US administrations. But now, here at home at UC Berkeley, the Sky Computing Lab has released a new model called Nova Sky. It's a 32 billion model with open source reasoning designed to match the performance of early O1 preview model on key benchmarks. And it achieved that with the low training cost of only $450. What?
Yeah.
And
so O1 preview was built for 100 million plus, however much it costs, right? So Berkeley's Sky Computing Lab replicates its performance. And how did they do it? Well, they made Sky T1 fully open source. They provided the data sources and all that. And they basically made it affordable by achieving a number of synthetic training data advances. So the synthetic data generation started with, back to China, Alibaba's QWQ32 billion preview model, and used that one to generate the synthetic data that the new Sky T1 32B preview model was trained on. So we have a synthetic data model that can perform on most benchmarks and actually exceeds OpenAI O1 preview on certain reasoning and coding tasks for $450 using synthetic data. So
that's crazy.
There's hope out there for economic model development that's sort of at the standard level of how we can perform.
And I think I read, I'm not sure if you've seen this too, I think the source model that they built on was one of the Quen models. So
yeah, that's I was saying that. That's right. Yeah. Quen QBQ or whatever.
Right. So So what it was sourced on top of the Chinese model. The data was created from a different Chinese model, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, I got another one for you. Adobe's new AI tool can edit 10,000 images in one click. Now, that is from The Verge. That's a great title. That's clickbaity in itself, no pun intended. But okay, I was in, right? I was like, when I was looking at news and stuff that's happened, I was like, yeah, I want to know about that. So basically, it is a bulk edit tool, it says AI to do it. And basically right now you can do two things. You can either bulk resize or bulk remove background. And this person from the person who wrote this article, which it doesn't, Jess Weatherbed, who is the author of this particular Verge article, said that either she found out or somebody else that it does okay if it's pretty clear about what the background is, but it seemed to struggle. And I would say this for any bulk editing tool, like, it can cause more problems. I mean, I don't know who's got 10,000 images they need to remove the background from, but I don't know, 100 images. Yes, I don't want to do that manually. That's super labor intensive, and it's very much just mechanical, repetitive. So yes, if I can use AI to do that for me, but also, is it any better if some of those 100 are messed up and now I have to manually go through the 100? I don't know. The resizing obviously seems like a more straightforward one. Anyway, it's all part of their AI, Adobe's Firefly powered APIs for developers. And right now it's starting with the remove background and resize. You can upload image files into the tool from their computer, Dropbox, Adobe Experience Manager, and quickly remove the backgrounds. It should work on any image, but looks especially useful for product marketers. Alongside just removing the background, users can also set the tool to replace backgrounds with a specific image or color defined by the hex code to get variations of each image that are ready for further editing. Now, that actually I could see, because we've seen some really cool people do like marketing and stuff like that, where it's pops a color or whatever, and you just want to change it behind your new drink product or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. And you might want to put all sorts of bold colors behind it. For sure. Yeah, I think that's probably where I see this being used. It's very cool. I think it kind of goes along with what, I was showing yesterday with the flow state from Leonardo. These walls of creating or editing hundreds and now thousands of images is just, any of those barriers seem to be falling one by one. And that's why, to me, like DALL-E 3 feels like a dinosaur at this point compared to a lot of other things that are out there. They're faster, they're better, all of the above. I don't know if that's OpenAI's, focus right now or not focus. I know that back in that Ask Me Anything several months ago, they said it is something that's coming and it'll be worth the wait. I guess we'll have to see on that. But when you're looking at what Leonardo is doing and stuff like that, and I'm sure others will follow. Yep, it makes sense to me,
So it sounds like what I'm hearing in terms of like OpenAI's tasks and this, it sounds like the companies have like what's old is new again, right? Like we've discovered cron jobs and batch processing, right?
Yeah,
Like
Cron Jobs, yeah.
yay, let's do cron jobs and batch processing.
Yep.
But like that is what we're talking about. It just took a lot more to get those things to run before.
Cron Jobs, you say Cron Jobs, it made a shiver go down my spine, like cold air go down my spine as I thought about one of my old businesses and having to do things for the website. I heard that term more from my developer than I think I ever want to hear in my life. So it's funny you said that. I was like, this instant flashback. I was like, Cron Jobs. Are they up? Are they working? Are they running?
What happened? The cron stopped. The cron stopped.
Oh my God. Yeah. Get cold chills down my back when you said that.
So
anyway,
yeah.
So
The future version of that is going to be, my agent ran amok and went off with a robot.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. You wake up in the morning to do your job and the agent has not done anything overnight and people are going to freak out. Yes. Yes. All of that.
Right. Because when it was just the cron job that uploaded all the financials to the bank, right, and ran them all in the credit card processor, like, all right, there's a thing. But when it's like Jarvis, let's just use the name that everybody else uses, when Jarvis doesn't do it overnight, right, we're now this is the personalization conversation we had earlier, right? Like, what did you do, Jarvis? Right? Like, why did you not? We have a relationship, first name between us. Like, yeah. All right.
Okay.
What else you guys got for stories?
I've got a couple of fun ones.
Sure.
So my lovely wife Lori gave me some AI news here this morning. She said, did you see the video of the guy in the Waymo car, where the Waymo car has gone crazy and is just going in a circle while he's trying to get to the airport?
Yes.
And it's literally in a tight circle and he's getting sick. And you can see that he starts out with the video and it's showing the wheel kind of turning and turning and turning and turning. And he's going, then he gets online with the support team and he says, just stop the car. We're sorry, but we can't do that. You have to get on your app in the car and figure out how to do this and that. And we'll walk you through it. He's going, oh. The story ends okay, but my wife added the rejoinder to it, which is, look, Waymo has to get way more better on this. And at least give the support team that you can call in an emergency the ability to take over the car and safely bring it to a stop. Wow. So that turned her off to robotic automation vehicles. And she said, that's way too autonomous for me.
Yeah. It reminds me of, well, first of all, that would be a horrible thing to happen after a night of intoxication or inebriation, Can you imagine if it just started doing tight donuts and you got people who are a little tipsy in the car? It starts fun for the first 30 seconds and then it's just a train wreck inside that Waymo. That'll get them to fix it, Andy. They get a few Waymos that are just splattered with and a lot of sick people. That'll change their minds. I agree with you though, because I remember I did see the thing, like you can watch the video of it, and the lady's like, "I am so sorry, sir. I can't just literally stop the car." And you're thinking, "What do you mean? You're like your tech support. What do you mean you can't stop the car?" And I get it. You can't just say stop car while it's doing 50 barreling down a highway. There's safety protocols, but the vehicle should definitely it should be possible for it to override its system to go somewhere safe and stop slowly. I don't know, slamming on the brakes doing tight donuts is the right move. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of wrong ways to stop that car. So maybe that's what she was going about. But yeah, that was, I saw that. You're right. Yeah. So I'd still get in a Waymo though. Let's be honest. I'd do it. Yeah.
Justin says, he saw somebody say you can't sit or put anything in the front seat or it won't go. So now, like, can I just toss a bag in the front seat and you'll stop?
Yeah. I'm in the front seat. I'm in the front seat.
Right. Did we just discover a hack?
I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. It's yelling at you and you're like, whatever you need to do. Just stop the car.
I'm a very bad passenger. Yes. Stop the car so that I can get out.
So I saw one. I know you have a few more, but I have a quick one. Wise, WYZE, has officially launched Cam Ultimate Pro, a new subscription that gives your users or you access to several AIP features. They're like a camera for your house or baby crib or something like that. And it says this includes descriptive alerts, text notifications generated by AI that accurately summarize motion events triggered by your camera. It's a powerful feature. So instead of pet detected in backyard, you might get something like small white dog playing with tennis ball in backyard at 4:04 p.m. And actually, I love this, and I hope this happens more. It's just using AI to look and get a better description of what's actually happening in the video. Very good use case of AI. And in our neighborhood, we're just having I will call it a rash of kids being kids. A lot of ding dong dash. A lot of, well, that's the big thing right now, honestly. The scary thing is the kids, because they're trying not to get caught on the Ring doorbells, are now covering their face and look much less like kids being kids and much more like masked gunmen, running up and doing something stupid. Of course, everybody in the neighborhood, I live in a big neighborhood, everybody's like, dude, talk to your kids. I'm afraid of them getting hurt on somebody's property who takes that really, really seriously,
Right.
So anyway, there's always these videos of, do you know these kids? And obviously something like this could actually be helpful in that. If it was a little more descriptive, it could actually help people. Nobody in this neighborhood wants any kids to get hurt. Kids are going to be kids, but like anywhere, something like this could actually be super beneficial. So I thought it was a cool story, and it kind of, here we go, rang true for me here in my neighborhood. See what I did there? Just came off the top of the noggin with that one, guys. I didn't even have that one loaded. I was off the top of the noggin. I'm that good. Okay, I think we have time for one or two more. While you guys are doing one or two more, or whatever you got for fast ones, I'm going to check to see if the task ran at all, because I don't know.
So we said we were going to talk about OpenAI robotics, so I just want to say something about it. Clearly, there were a ton more stories after that show got named. But OpenAI kind of announced their robotics through, it wasn't an official announcement. It was like Caitlin Kalinowski, formerly head of AR glasses and hardware at Meta, announced via LinkedIn post that she was joining OpenAI to lead its robotics and consumer hardware efforts. So they are moving into robotics, but it wasn't like a giant PR announcement that OpenAI made. It was just like,
there were also some job postings to encourage engineers to apply to the robotics division at OpenAI.
Yeah. EE sensing engineer, robotics mechanical design engineer, a TPM manager. And that one is going to be fun, scrappy role to start with the span product TPM work and standing up our training lab and keeping us running smoothly as we cycle through our product design phases. So yeah, if you know what any of that means, apply. Yeah, it sounds like you could be you could do some really cool stuff, especially if you'd like to be part of the beginning of something. That could be really, really intriguing for probably some super smart engineers out there who want to be at the start of something and not coming in the middle of it. So you have more say on how things go. Very cool, though. And you're right. It was, as far as I know, just an X post. Yeah. That was it.
And I have questions about, what happens in the PR offices at OpenAI? Like, do you literally say, oh, I think Sam should our framework for this is that Sam is just going to start tweeting really weird cryptic comments. Over here, I think we should just do job announcements and let it trickle out. Here, we're going to announce an entire 12-day big thing. And and we don't really have all 12, kind of, right? Like we have 7 or 8, and then we're just going to fill in. Like, how is that? How are these decisions getting made?
I think it is all planned. I do. I don't, but we've talked about this, Beth, right? Like how they can continue to look small and scrappy in a startup when they're clearly not. But you can mimic what small scrappy startups do, which is having a very decentralized way of communicating that's not just press releases, which makes you feel old and stodgy. Who puts out press releases? Oh, old companies with lots of money. That's not OpenAI. We're fun. We're fast. We're scrappy. And it's like we're also an almost $1 trillion company. But never mind that. It's I think it's strategy, and I cannot imagine. And now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can't imagine that Caitlin had 2 months into the job had carte blanche to put whatever she wanted on X. I do believe that probably had to be cleared, but I do think it's a strategy, and a very smart one, by the way. I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes you feel differently about OpenAI than you do Google, despite the fact that they're both giant companies at this point.
Yeah.
You know? Any others that we want to get before we wrap things up? By the way, the task does not appear to have run. It was supposed to run 5 minutes ago, and I do not see anything. So I will have to report back at a later date on whether these tasks are actually running. It says it's going to, and when I click into it, actually said it should have run at 10:46 a.m., which again was now 5 minutes ago, but nothing, and it doesn't say delayed either. So I don't know. We'll have to keep working on tasks. Perhaps I asked for too much. I should have just asked.
I'm gonna start simply. I'm just gonna ask ChatGPT to wake me gently at 6 o'clock. Andy, soft voice like that.
By the way, you talked about it too. This does make them much stickier, right? Because we were talking about like not having things. So what's to stop OpenAI from saying, oh, you know what? You're on that $20 plan, but you built all these tasks and you keep maxing out your limits. And so if you just move to this $40 plan, we'll let you set as many tasks as you want. In fact, we'll let you do them a little more often because you kind of need the bandwidth to do this. You keep running out of space. You built all these tasks and then you're like, geez, I don't want to lose all my tasks. I've kind of gotten used to those being in my life. Okay, I'll pay the $40 so I can keep adding more tasks. I definitely think that's what's coming here. Like it's making you sticky.
So Gwyn asked an important question. Does the phone and the app ChatGPT have to be on for the task to intercept the way I want it to? And I doubt that this would work.
Yeah, right.
I think that's simple. That's not going to work, Gwyn, because I believe that it's not going to be. It doesn't have the permissions necessary to turn on the phone and turn on the application.
Yeah.
Well,
yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And I am clearly the sponsorship and merch person for our show. So should this work, and should you also want to be awoken by Andy's gentle voice saying,
Justin, you have permission to clone my voice for your wake-up call. But that's
already happened, Andy. We got hundreds of hours of you talking. This has already happened. Sorry, we meant to ask you. We meant to ask if you were
okay. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that.
Implied permission on that one. Okay, we got to probably wrap it up there. We've gone along. Look, I think all this stuff is really, really interesting. There's some really cool stories that came out this week, and it just goes to show that AI every single week for 2025 is going to be interesting. That's why we do this new show every Wednesday. We didn't want it to be just a typical news show, but like, why is this interesting? Why is it going to have an impact on us? And hopefully you got a little bit out of that today. Hey, the rest of this week, we have two really interesting topics that Andy and myself, and maybe some other folks will be around, but it'll be mostly Andy and I are going to be tackling. And one of those is going to be talking about OpenAI again, but they just released their OpenAI's economic blueprint. It's a 15-page document, and it's got all sorts of notes and goodies in there. Andy and I are going to do our best to consume all that, come up with our thoughts about why this matters, and we're going to bring that back to you on Friday. Tomorrow, though, we're going to be talking about quantum computers. Lots of buzz about quantum computers, especially coming out of the end of 2024. But, okay, I know I've heard of quantum computers, and I know what you guys talk about at AI, but how do they go together? Why is it so important that quantum computers are attached to AI, and what does that mean for us going forward as far as what we can possibly achieve with AI? Andy and I, and whoever else might be here tomorrow, will join us for that. So make sure you keep coming back. We will see you guys tomorrow and Friday. Don't forget to go to the dailyishow.com. You can sign up for the free newsletter there. Thank you to everybody in the comments, as always, for your participation, and we will see you again tomorrow.